If you want peace, prepare for war. This was the opinion of a Roman named Vegetius Renatus, but not everyone agrees with his ideology. On the opposing end is Edwin Starr, who passionately sang that war is good for absolutely nothing. So here we are, caught in a conundrum. If we are to answer this question thoroughly, then we need to approach it politically, philosophically, and scientifically. Yeah, scientifically, because fighting wars is more biological than you can imagine. And no, I'm not talking about biological weapons. I am talking about our primal drive to go to war. Our ability to fight wars has become one of the most important focuses, so much so that most countries spend more on their military than most aspects of their economy. Let's have our perceptions challenged and your curiosity piqued as we take a shot into the heart of this age-old mystery. To ensure we are on the same page, war is defined as a conflict between political groups involving hostilities of considerable duration and magnitude. While there is no single, simple reasoning or cause as to why they happen, the first argument that can be easily stated over why wars continuously occur is that countrymen engage in conflict over a grievance or a goal that another country or an opposing side is causing or interfering with. This can go from a dispute over territory to differences in agendas and ideologies that eventually lead to the battlefield. Usually reduced to three categories: religious, economic, and political. Considering this, it is widely believed that the reasoning is driven by the desire to expand wealth, status, and/or power. These ultimately provide the desire of wanting to interfere or attack in case no easier solution is achieved. In shorter terms, war is a means to achieve an end, violently. Karl von Clausewitz defined war as an act of violence intended to compel our opponent to fulfill our will. Greed, the ravenous beast within, is considered a large catalyst when it comes to war, or at least the continuation of the conflict. Demands may become more substantial, and the necessity to accumulate or reinstate power may intensify to a point where even when the original demands are met, the battle continues for the sake of the expansion of power or even influence. Countries may also take to arms if resources and weapons are readily available, though often, if the conflict prolongs itself more than anticipated, an overestimation of those capabilities and opportunities may have transpired. This mostly raises the question of whether or not they're capable of defeating the enemy. It goes beyond the want and reflects upon the can. You may have the men, but not the ammunition, or vice versa. You could have both, or neither, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will conquer your enemy. This might be the most important factor to consider behind a country's decision to attack. Indeed, research indicates that just the mere opportunity or access to resources raises the likelihood of war. That being said, there is an almost contradictory element to this statement, as another purpose behind engaging in battle is the desire to control or have access to resources their opponent may have in their possession. Still, where there's a will, there's a way. Which brings the next culprit when it comes to war: resolve. Though seemingly obvious, resolve begs the question of whether we must do it. It rationalizes and considers different alternatives and what might come to their benefit or detriment if they were to attack. Do we dare do it? What do we have to lose? It assesses risk, evaluates potential scenarios, and contemplates their willingness to engage in violent conflict. Simply put, if the good outweighs the bad, then it's a go. It is considered that either side usually underestimates their opponent's resolve to fight, leading to perhaps overly confident attacks that end up backfiring. However, among the other reasons why war is an endlessly repeated event throughout history is the potential of victory, the achievement of the goal through subverting the enemy. Just the hope of the possibility of winning is enough to load the guns and fire. On a nihilistic note, wars happen because leaders and countrymen might ultimately get what they want, no matter the consequences. Additionally, a country's historical context is key when it comes to the escalation of tension between each other. This adds a mistrusting precedent, possibly from long-standing historical grievances, a deep-seated prejudice, or even a strain among systems of beliefs. In fact, just the mere desire for revenge against a group or country is enough to incentivize a war. As a result, several scholars consider that frustration, desire for power, greed, and the existence of weapons are what make war such a repeated occurrence. However, there are psychological factors to be more aptly considered in this statement. For example, although wars are usually initiated by the government and not the population, historian Alan Bullock has made note of the sense of patriotism that led countless men to fight for their country and/or their beliefs. It creates a sense of unity, a sense of belonging, and an ever-growing camaraderie as soldiers together take to their weapons. This mostly concentrates on just how influential popular opinion may be on citizens. Moreover, the notion of us versus them brings the idea of belonging, a system of beliefs and values that defines us, that may further propel or instigate the desire of participating in war. In turn, there is also the right of self-defense and survival against a larger menace that compromises our identity. Even more so, several psychologists attribute war to the positive psychological effects on people due to the aforementioned sense of unity it seems to create, even when all seems to be lost. It brings discipline and cohesion and inspires citizens to behave honorably. So unity in war can work in a positive or negative way based on the circumstances. On a more individual note, psychologist William James considers that war casts meaning upon life, where soldiers might even achieve a sense of transcendence through their newfound purpose. However, there's something to be said about the romanticism that is. Certain Hobbesian and biological theories attribute the reasoning behind their decision to participate in such violence to simply biological behavior, labeling humans as inherently violent. War is natural, and as long as we continue to exist, war will continue to happen. While it's a little more complicated than just human instinct, it has definitely proven that if there's anything war is, other than violent, bloody, and devastating, it is perpetual. Overall, there is not a simple or single answer as to why we fight wars. There are several components, be it political, ideological, economical, biological, or psychological that come into play, and considering every war is different, unique, and has its own set of causes and casualties, one can only imagine trying to make this a binary argument as it's so sophisticated, we can only scratch the surface. Nevertheless, if there's something that can be said about every war, is that it starts and ends the same way, bloody. While this may be leading you down a dark and depressing intellectual path, there is room for optimism. As political scientist Chris Blattman has recently stated, across the world, hundreds of groups dislike one another. But knowing the cost of war, they prefer to simply loathe one another in peace.